Love you, babe. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and welcome to this random train yard where today we are actually going to be spending some time with a 2020 F450 Platinum. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to one of the first F450 Platinums on the East Coast. It is right here behind me, a brandy spanking new Illumiduty that is owned by my friend Andy, who's sitting inside. A2 Rides on Instagram if you want to check him out. He literally just picked this thing up. It only has 300 miles on it at this current point in time. He sent me a message and said, "Hey Jack, I just picked this truck up. It's been on order since August of this year. It's finally arriving. What are you doing this weekend?" And I'm like, "Well, dude, I had some plans, but they're all clear now because I want to check this thing out." Brand new redesigned front end on this truck and a whole bunch of other goodies that we're going to talk about today. But I feel like the biggest talking point on this truck is going to be the new and revised 10-speed transmission with the updated 6.7 liter powertrain that was just introduced in the Illumiduty body. Now the 450 is the king of the lot. It is the top trim, and of course this one is the Platinum. So it's in the nice pearl white finish, and then it's got this beautiful brown/maroon red colored interior, and it is a awesome package. So if you guys want to go give Andy a follow on Instagram, I'm sure he would really appreciate that. You definitely want to stay tuned with this build, as it's not going to stay the way that it is right here behind me. Rather, it's going to see some changes. The front end might be coming up a little bit on it. It might be getting some bigger tires and potentially some bigger wheels to accompany those bigger tires. But I don't want to reveal all of Andy's secrets, as this is going to be a fun one for him to introduce to some of you that decide to follow along. So this 2020 Super Duty has a completely revised front end, but I'd say that it's a revision of its predecessor, which was the Illumiduty, introduced in 2017. It's got a brand new front end that's actually function inspired, so they wanted to change things up a little bit here to increase airflow and cooling for that 6.7 liter Powerstroke that does surpass the 1,000 foot-pound of torque barrier. So here you guys can see a look at those brandy new headlights that look oh so good. So it's interesting because this whole shape has actually kind of been changed. It's now somewhat of a C shape rather than its old somewhat bracket shape, because surprise surprise, it's actually an improvement over the stock lighting in the 2017 to 2019 models. These actually have better lighting output than the previous lights, which is actually somewhat surprising because a lot of people love that characteristic of that solid bar from side to side, but these OEMs have to do things to change it up just a little bit time and time again, and that's what they did right here. So they actually went with more of that C-shaped styling, and then they increased the lighting output from the high and low beam light. Plus this side of the light got changed a little bit, so it's more of a C rather than a very hard 90-degree turn on either side. Coming over to the grille, this grille on the F450 Platinum is totally exclusive to the F450. You're not going to be able to see that grille on any other 250 or 350 in the lineup. It's only exclusive to this truck. And then on the bottom of the bumper here, the bumper is actually completely revised. The older ones used to be a little bit more square, whereas this one, if you look at it, it's actually kind of bowed up on either side, and then it's got a bigger opening in the middle, and it is an overall menacing front end. So the 450 is really cool because it comes with these OEM fender flares that are just absolutely massive. There's your stock body line, and you can see the 450 fender flares actually stick out to give equivalency to the rear end. It's somewhat more of a symmetrical shape, whereas without those, the back of the truck would stick out so far, and it would almost leave the front end looking a little bit narrow. And they look really good too. You know, fender flares can be a little interesting at times, but they've got this bumper extender here, and then they've got this fender flare here, and I think that that's probably one of my favorite characteristics of the 450 specifically, because of just how wide it takes a factory truck. So you can see why Andy has intent to do wheels and tires there, because of how much it's really just going to blow out and play into the characteristic of the front end. Just looking around this thing right now, it looks awesome. So this is like a pearl white, looks absolutely incredible. You guys can actually see it's got some water spots on it. A little bit of a funny story. We decided to get together kind of last minute, and I was like, all right, hey, let's get together on this morning, because we both are kind of busy guys living our own lives. We've got the wives at home. Decided to cut out and have some fun for a little while. And well, once we got together, we noticed that unfortunately some Lancaster residue, as I'm gonna call it, was actually some horse poop that unfortunately got run over. So we had to wash this thing off real quick, because we couldn't have that only 300 miles in. So I wanted to bring you guys over to the back end here, because this is another characteristic of the truck that's been, I'm gonna say, revised, not completely redone, but revised. We actually have some changes here to the tail lights. So there's C-shape brackets here on the turn signal, and then on the tailgate there's been some changes in the bumper. So the bumper is similar, very, very similar to its previous generation IllumiDuty, but it kind of just comes up a little bit more on the back. And then the tailgate, the Super Duty badge, is now part of the stamping process that happens with this big badge across the back of the tailgate, rather than being placed down here. And I believe the Ford emblem is still in the same spot, but I just want to give you guys a quick little look at the back end of that thing. It is absolutely staggering how large and in charge this truck is. Now, in 300 miles, Andy's already gone ahead and added a very nice tri-folding tonneau cover. He did already get it tinted, and he did already throw an awesome set of cab lights on from our boys at Recon, so now he's got white lighting all up top. I've got him hanging out in the truck right now because it is honestly like 15 degrees. It's pretty cold, but we're doing this for you guys. So this thing looks absolutely awesome. Then of course, there's that crazy color interior that just accents the pearl white so phenomenally well. I gotta say, guys, like, the interiors on these Super Duties are on a completely different level. Andy, congratulations, man.
Thanks, buddy.
So if you guys are in the Corvettes too, he's got an awesome 2019 C7. It's got a few modifications to it. I definitely encourage you to go check out his Instagram to check them out.
How's that Corsa sound?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. So how do you like this thing in the 300 miles that you've got it so far?
It's kind of hard to tell, but it's fantastic. It's night and day from my 2016.
Yeah, the changes that these IllumiDuties have brought to the entire truck market are just astounding, because you get in here and you don't feel like you're in a pickup truck by any means.
Not at all.
Like, all the materials to the touch are super soft and high quality. The steering wheel actually has like a nice little thin padding to it that just makes handling the vehicle like blissful.
It must have like electronic steering because it's so smooth.
Yeah,
it's effortless.
You wouldn't feel like you're in a truck that could tow 35,000 pounds like effortlessly.
Not at all.
And although it is technically deemed like a land yacht, the steering's pretty nice to make it more agile as you
It's got
go
the wide track
lots.
front end on a 450, so it just adds to the turning capability on this thing.
That's awesome. So here's a quick little look at the interior for you guys. As I had mentioned, they haven't changed too much from the previous generation IllumiDuty, but some small little things like the trim has been updated in the Platinum specifically. Now they do offer wireless charging and some additional USB ports to charge and all that good stuff. So now you've got Pro Trailer Backup, and what does that do exactly?
I haven't tried it out yet, but apparently you have a QR code or a barcode that you put on your trailer, and it actually reads your trailer, and this actually is the lazy man's backup. There's no more, which way do I turn my trailer? It does it effortlessly for you.
Can you imagine the world that we're living in now, where it's like, oh yeah, we've got, oh, and by the way, you have this additional camera where you can add a camera, you can put it on your trailer.
Yes.
So not only do you have eyes behind your camera, but you have directions as to how to back up your trailer as well.
That can go on your gooseneck, it can go on your horse trailer, it can go on pretty much anything. I don't know if it's submersible for a boat trailer, but I don't really want to try that out.
The big question in the vlog right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough blabbling about a lot of the stuff that you guys already know. I'm super interested to see how this 10-speed automatic transmission feels. If you guys can recall, we just recently reviewed a Dodge, and in that video, if you haven't seen it already, I'll link the information right here above. But in that video, I talked about how it almost feels like a downgrade when you're going back to a 6-speed transmission. So, although Ford didn't change much in the interior, kind of like everybody bashed on General Motors for with the introduction of the 2020 Denali, they put a lot of engineering, resource, and capital into figuring out a new 10-speed transmission to withstand over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque to the ground. And I think that's where you're gonna see a big change in the driving dynamics of these new 2020s. So let's check it out. Guys, I'll tell you what, sitting behind the wheel of an F450, wow. I literally feel like I'm gonna completely own the road.
I mean, you can just tell just by turning that steering wheel and just how the truck like starts to glide. It's weird, isn't it?
Dude, it's crazy. So it's got an additional like revolution of turning degree?
I don't know if it has a revolution, but the 450s are known for the wide track front axle, and I think it's like 10 feet shorter like turning radius.
Wow. So guys, first thing you'll notice right here is, as I notice all the time in these Fords, is that you have a gauge to let you know what gear you're in. I say for General Motors and the Dodge guys, it would be really nice if they offered that in all the makes and models, because if you're using these trucks to tow, it'd be nice to know where you are at any given point in time. But also it's just nice to know that, okay, well, I've got 10 speeds and right now I'm in that 10th speed, and I'm going a little bit above the speed limit. So the first thing that I have to say is the transmission, in literally just about 5 minutes of driving it, it feels pretty smooth, and we're about to get up to a little bit of an open area here where we'll be able to somewhat accelerate. But just real quick, I'd like to comment on the relationship between the 6.7 and the old 6-speed that was in this Super Duty, because they were always playing off of each other extremely well. It's not like you had to drive the motor really hard to get the transmission to shift. It's almost like the gas pedal was always just a little bit more sensitive, and it knew when it had to downshift rather than waiting for you to accelerate to actually downshift. So now that we've got 4 more gears, I'm curious to see how that feels. As you can see, I'm just accelerating very, very slightly here, trying to avoid the horse poop here in the road, and we're already at 55 miles an hour, and it's rather effortless.
So yeah, if you hit this thing, like you're in eco mode right now.
Yeah, I see that.
And I don't know, you still have like your lane, so now the lane keeping system's on, so if you like go over the line, it'll kind of buzz a little bit.
So I'm curious, so like right now, if I accelerate just a little bit, it doesn't downshift. It'll just stay in 10th gear and it'll just continue to climb.
Well, you're in eco, so.
Yeah, so I'm curious, if you change that over to normal driving mode, oh, there we go. Same amount of acceleration, it's just going. So it dropped 2 gears down to 8th gear, and then it just drops right back into 10th. So it seems like it's pretty decisive. And now you think like HD truck, it's built to handle pretty much any load that you could ever throw at it, but we just went over some bumps and it was actually extremely smooth. Now I wanna say, the Fords have always been very good at like interior sound deadening. You ride inside this truck and you legitimately really can't hear anything at all. It's really impressive. So we're cruising up a small little grade here. It's nothing too crazy, but 10th gear, this truck, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque will just pull anywhere through any situation, and it seems effortless. Now, granted, it is built to tow heavy transmissions and big payloads and all of that, but even just from a daily driver's perspective, it makes it super easy. So guys, take a look at just how many times this thing shifts getting up to the speed limit. And we're in 10th gear. Just like that, to 50 miles an hour. So I don't know if you guys noticed real quick, but Andy had actually brought up a really good point. In driving this, if you're just under normal acceleration conditions, let's just say starting from a dead stop, getting up to normal speed, it actually skips 2nd gear, which is kind of fascinating. Now I can't say that in my Denali that is the same, but maybe it just deems that that gear ratio is kind of rendered useless if you don't have a big load behind you. All right guys, so back to that point of turning radius. Check this out, we're in this little lot and we're just we're turning for days. I feel like I'm in like a drift car right now. It just keeps going. This is absolutely unbelievable. We are in this tiny little lot, just doing circles, boys, just because, and it just goes. You ain't kidding. You know, I'm actually going to have Andy grab the camera real quick as we're doing the circle just to show you guys how small of an area we're in to just exemplify that this thing is so agile. So if we sit here and we are at dead straight with the wheel, we got 1, 2 full rotations. That is absolutely incredible. And the crazy part is, guys, you just saw, we went in a total circle right around this tiny little area. And to have the crew cab 8-foot bed with the dually wheels, that is something that is absolutely essential just to make driving this thing somewhat realistic for the average user.
That's why I'm saying, like, you're gonna buy a 450 now and you're not gonna end up buying it.
Don't tempt me, dude. Don't tempt me. How are you?
I don't know yet, man. I don't know which one I want.
Yeah, I know. If you had to pick, which would it be?
I don't know, man. I can't give you that, man. But they're beautiful, man. Beautiful. These freaking wheels, man.
This is one of the first 2020 F450s that's out and about on the road right now.
That door is nice.
Check out that interior. Basically, man.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Well, I can't take credit for it. It's this guy's right here.
And whose is that?
That's mine.
I can imagine what that thing's running.
They both have the new 10-speed transmissions in them.
All right.
Both diesels, yeah.
You both got beautiful trucks.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
One. I have them both. Ain't nobody in here gonna punch you.
No, here, I think I can unlock it for you there. You can check it out. It's a little bit dirtier.
Fellas, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, sir. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. And there he goes. Look at that thing. It is absolutely colossal. And I'm not even gonna lie, I really like that front end. So there's no doubt in my mind that that is one slick truck. But I wanted to take a minute here at the end of the video to just highlight some points about the directions that General Motors and Ford decided to take versus Dodge's approach. And it's kind of fascinating because if we go back 12 to 15 years, these big manufacturers realized that there was a market for the premium trim buyer in the heavy duty truck space, but it wasn't really as prominent as it is today. Today, the modern truck buyer wants all of the HD ruggedness and capacity capability, but they also want to feel like they're driving something extremely nice. And just recently, there's been this massive divide in the three auto manufacturers. I'd say that GM and Ford are kind of on one side of the spectrum, and then Dodge is on the other. For the most recent model year release, Dodge decided to focus on the interior, and Ford and GM decided to focus on the powertrain and putting that power to the ground. Dodge designed a super slick interior. Ford and GM decided to introduce 4 more gears in their transmission. And those two things feed back into the driver's experience. For over 6 months now and 8,000 miles, although the interior in that GM or that 2020 Ford isn't as show-worthy of the Dodge, I have to tell you that going back to a 6-speed transmission is almost somewhat of a downgrade. Now, I realize that the interior performance and function is also critical, but if you really think about it, each one of these manufacturers decided to take a step forward out of that traditional truck characteristic over the past 10 years. They've all had 6-speed transmissions, and they've all been high output diesels. Now this divide is happening where each manufacturer is taking a risk in this continuous improvement initiative that they are always working on to be the best. So I gotta ask the question, what side of the fence are you on? Do you see more value in the 10-speed transmission and all the performance benefits that it enables, or do you just want to have a really nice interior? The 6-speed in the Dodge is not a bad transmission, especially if you're not going to modify it. If you're going to modify it, it's a little questionable. But after seeing the direction that Ford and General Motors went with focusing on the performance, it's going to be interesting to see how Dodge decides to compete with them now. We'll probably see some version of a 10-speed transmission come out at some point here in the next year or two. And then of course, General Motors and Ford are going to introduce their versions of what is that next level interior improvement. So are they gonna go the Tesla style where it's a big screen that's embedded in the dashboard, or are they gonna steal some design characteristics from the Germans, the BMWs and the Mercedes of the world, where they have the iPad style dash that kind of protrudes up and over? You guys have seen the 2021 Tahoe that was just released and the 2021 Ford prototype prototypes, they have that style interior. So it should be kind of interesting to see what happens as these manufacturers try to brand themselves a little bit more uniquely in the market to see what compels most to the audience. Now, everybody came down on General Motors for offering an antiquated interior in a brand new year make and model in 2020, but will they do the same for Ford? I don't know. I guess only time will tell. So that's where I'm gonna end this video. I apologize for the small little abrupt disruption to finish off the video here in my office, but I had a great time. Andy, thank you again for letting me toy around in that truck. Very impressed by that truck. The highlights, I have to say, front end, lighting, that turning radius is incredible. 1,000 foot-pounds of torque and a 10-speed transmission to seal the deal. To me, I go out and buy one almost immediately. Well, maybe I might. I don't really know yet, but I will be buying a Powerstroke soon, so I'll leave that there. My Like League, I love you guys. Do what you do best. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, I'd definitely consider doing so. It's great to have you along, and I'll see y'all in the next upload.